further to go.
Stand for the pledge led by Mr. Doris Jernigan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we have our moment of silence, let's think about our troops that are in Afghanistan and Iraq and their parents. Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I had mentioned at the work session possibility of bringing a meeting earlier in September that we have scheduled. Is this the appropriate time to add that to the agenda?
I guess it would be.
Okay, would you please?
I was going to ask the board if they wanted to do that.
Do I need to make a motion
I
and
would-
have it
I would
seconded?
appreciate that if you would.
A motion, please.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second, but are you adding it to the agenda, or are you making the motion now?
Well, I'm making a motion to add it to the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay, did you second?
I did.
Okay.
Does that meet the qualification of the 24-hour notice?
The board sets its own schedule, so the board wants to add a meeting, the board can add a meeting if the board votes to do that, but it'd have to be by the affirmative vote of the majority of the board.
Did you want to add it to this meeting or the next one?
This meeting.
Okay, so is that,
So that's a matter, if you want to take up the issue of whether to add an additional meeting beyond what's already been scheduled, that can be added to the agenda for this meeting tonight.
I'm still not clear on that.
Okay, I understand what the motion was, is to add an additional meeting for the board.
No, it was add that
To the
issue
agenda,
to this agenda tonight.
as an agenda item tonight.
Yes.
So that can be added as an agenda item tonight.
Okay. All right.
So,
all right.
but for that motion to be approved, the board needs to vote for it, and a majority needs to vote for it.
Okay.
So we don't have to vote to add it to the agenda then?
You do need to vote to add it to the agenda, because it's not currently on the agenda.
Two
So you
separate
have
votes.
two
One to add it
votes.
to the agenda and add it, and then vote on whether
Correct.
it's
Correct.
a subsequent meeting.
Correct.
Okay. All right, let's vote on that first then. We'll vote on whether to add it to the agenda. Now, where will we put it at the agenda? At the end or here or?
I don't have a clue.
All right, well, let's just vote to see whether we add it to the agenda or not. Call a roll, Ms. Michaels.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Dr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Donald Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Doris Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes. Okay, now where do we place it on the agenda to vote on it? Do we want to do that?
At the end?
Let's do it at the end. Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else on the agenda? Approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, down here to visitors. We have Miss Sue Kane. You may come, Miss Kane, you have 3 minutes to speak. And
I've given each one of the board members, plus Mr. Gill, a copy of this. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Sue Kane. I taught math and English for 38 years before retiring in May 2008. My teaching certification is for grades 7 through 12, so I speak from 38 years in the classroom with junior high and high school students. I moved to Rutherford County in 1984. I taught math at Smyrna High for 3 years, and then I taught math and English at Laverne High for 20 years. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the students of this county. We, the taxpayers of Rutherford County, along with you, the members of the Rutherford County Board of Education, and the members of the Rutherford County Commission, need to build a couple of new high schools. That's obvious. But before you automatically decide to build another academic high school, I have a proposal for you. You just opened Central Magnet School. To gain entrance, students had to apply for admission and meet certain standards before being allowed to enroll. I suggest that you build at least one high-tech, VOTEC high school and bring back the vocational classes that gave the students who didn't want to go to college a chance to train for a career while in high school. You remember those classes, of course: auto mechanics, drafting, wood shop, building and trades, machine shop, child care, marketing, keyboarding, home economics, and radio and TV. In the last 10 years, all of those, except for marketing, keyboarding, child care, and radio and TV, have disappeared. You've added horticulture, computer repair, health occupations, computer programming, and cosmetology. We have a large number of our students in our schools every year who really don't want to be there and learn anything. They could care less. Part of their feeling comes from the fact that they have no backup push from their parents to get an education. Some others don't mind trying to learn something, but they'd like for it to be something that they want to learn, that they're interested in. They don't care about upper-level math and science classes. The simple basic classes suit their purposes just fine. Some have met failure in the lower grades and are constantly passed along through the system until they're old enough to drop out. It is this attitude that causes our graduation rate and our test scores to go down. If a child can pass without having to work at all, he or she will give up trying and assume that you, the system, will pass them on through. So why should they try? We must turn this around. And one way that we can is to bring back the courses that will give them some training with which to succeed in life. At the same time, you'll bring your graduation rate back up. If you go back to the 80s and 90s and look at the percentages of students graduating, you would find in a lot of cases the vocational classes helped a lot of the students to graduate. The classes gave them a goal in life. Vocational classes that will teach them how to build buildings, draw up architectural blueprints, repair automobiles, run a machine or tool and die, weld, build furniture and products from wood, were moved from the high schools 10 years ago in Rutherford County. While at the same time our economy still remains better than most of our neighbors when we continue to build Stonecrest Medical Center, the new Middle Tennessee Medical Center, the Avenue, and the new Stones River Mall are just a few of our newer structures. But we've stopped teaching drafting and engineering, building and trades, wood shop, and machine shop. Why? I've had this idea to build a high-tech VOTEC high school for about 10 years. A couple of years ago, someone else I was talking to suggested that we build one and use pods or mini schools for it. Make it a school that meets all the basic academic requirements. Begin with 6 pods, any 6 you choose. I chose to write in auto mechanics, building and trades, machine shop, computer classes, radio and TV, and health occupations. Along with a teacher to teach 4 years of a skill, include your math, English, history, and science teachers. All of the students learning a trade would have their own basic academic teachers for 4 years, along with their trade or career teacher. Instead of an academic magnet school or high school, make it a vocational magnet school. Students would have to apply to attend, meet basic standards and agree to work hard to learn their craft. Requirements would possibly be C average, no discipline problems, 98% plus attendance, provide their own transportation, and live in Rutherford County. I say live in Rutherford County because I had a student at Laverne who lived on the other side of Hickory Hollow Mall. He had trouble getting to school every day on time because of it. I turned it over to the attendance teacher, but nothing was done. Parents would have to sign on to help their students and support them. The first three items, the average, whether they have discipline problems or not, attendance would have to come from their home school. But it can work. Let's face it, all students are not created equal in the sense that all are not capable of college coursework. We're all individuals with certain God-given talents and abilities. Some students are better suited for blue-collar jobs. As long as we drive cars, build buildings, run computers, and have families, we'll have a need for vocationally trained members of society. Let's take a quick look at financing. I would be willing to say that if you put this in the form of a proposal and take it to the business people of this county, you'd find that they'd be willing to help you out, especially if it means a trained workforce for them. They might even help equip the building. There'd be a huge tax write-off for the companies for the money expended to help us and also help defray expenses. In conversations with Representative Joe Carr, Senator Bill Ketron, and Senator Jim Tracy, they've even hinted that state vocational money might be available. It is my belief, and the belief of other retirees of the Rutherford County Schools, that it's time to bring back the career-enhancing vocational classes. Several of us have had occasion to talk to our state legislators about this topic, and we found that they're in agreement with us. We feel it is a good idea to give the students of our county a leg up on their future by bringing back the vocational classes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Kane?
I just think we should express a thank you to these ladies for bringing this subject to us. It's not that we haven't talked about it, at least informally, but I think Donald's been an advocate that we get back to this, and I think there is a need and a time to address it, and hopefully the new board will find the time to put it on the agenda. Let's begin a thought process, at least.
Well, we did a study on it, and it was going to cost about $40 million to build a 1,000-seat school, which was when we needed the seats was difficult. But I agree. I think we need one too, and I think the board needs to look at that in the future. Go ahead.
Or we might find a vacant building somewhere and just, as an experiment, go into a rental piece of property with some modifications and could make this go.
It's food for thought.
I suggested to Mr. Jernigan, we were talking before the board meeting started, that you might consider using the Middle Tennessee Medical Center building that's being vacated.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Number 7.
Recognition of outgoing board members. I guess everybody in this boardroom and anyone that has a real interest in education knows that this is the final hurrah for Mr. Wise and Mr. Jernigan, each of whom has served on the board for 8 years. I think Mr. Wise actually served just a little longer than that, and each of whom has served admirably. I think everybody up here would agree. Both of them leave with the full respect of teachers, administrators, and this entire central office staff. And I hate to see both of them go, and I think we all appreciate their years of service. And with that said, we'd like to present to each of them a plaque in appreciation for the service. So I'll start with the youngest of the two board members, Mr. Doris Jernigan. You can stand, sir. And it reads, in appreciation of Doris Jernigan, Sr., member of the Rutherford County Board of Education, September the 1st, 2002 through August 31st, 2010, who provided unselfish devotion and service to the students, teachers and citizens of Rutherford County. Presented Rutherford County Board of Education, Harry Gill, Director of Schools, Richard Wise, Board Chairman, Terry Hodge, Vice Chair, Wayne Blair, Dr. Mark Murray, Donald Jernigan, and Grant Kelly. Thank you, Darcy.
Thank you. Well,
Mr. Wise?
no,
Go ahead, sir.
you can't get off that easy. Got to put up with me one more time. You know, the honor has been mine. The honor has been to serve, and I do appreciate the people of Rutherford County and you all for putting up with me. And it has been a great trip, and we've done some good things.
Mr. Wise?
Yes, sir.
Appreciation to
Mr. Director.
Mr. Richard Wise, member of the Rutherford County Board of Education, February the 14th, 2002 to August 31st, 2010. He provided unselfish devotion and service to the students, teachers, and citizens of Rutherford County, presented by the Rutherford County Board of Education. Rick, we'll miss you. Awesome job. I think we owe each of these guys that stand, all of us to stand and give it up to him.
I'd just like to thank the board and the boards that I've served with, Chris Wire, Mr. Ed Jordan, and I mean, I can just go on, John Hodge Jones, and go back all the names of the present board, and it's just a pleasure to have served the people of Rutherford County. God bless the people of Rutherford County. That's what I say. So.
Next up, we have a very special lady who's had done a lot in vote education in the county, and she heads up Read to Succeed, Miss Ronnie Shaw. Ms. Shaw?
Thank you for that nice introduction, and I'm a little shied by following your last presentation, and I want to say if either of you guys are looking for volunteer work in the community, I can take up your whatever evening this is that you've been meeting and put you to work. So as I've been introduced, I'm Ronnie Shaw. I'm the Executive Director of Read to Succeed. Read to Succeed is the literacy initiative here for Rutherford County. We create programs to support our schools and libraries in promoting literacy. Some of those happen right in your schools. We'll be at Laverne Lake very soon doing our English as a Second Language adult classes. We have lots of tutoring that's going on for adults. We have family literacy programs that happen in our schools, as well as a 6th grade spelling bee that your 6th grade students all, actually I think they've won the last couple of years, county school students. And that is a county-wide 6th grade spelling bee. And of course our high school arts conference that all of your high schools send our students, high school students to enjoy over at Patterson Park. We also have our promotional events. You're used to me coming along in the winter and hawking our one-book community read. No, I'm not here early with the book. You have time to finish what's on your bedside table in preparation for that new title. I'll be back in a few months to let you know about it. We also have our Unplug and Read that we do, again, in conjunction with your schools, where we ask everyone to unplug electronic fun things and read a book. And then our signature, our very initial promotional programs that were the very start of Read to Succeed are coming up in September. And that was what I wanted to give you some extra details about today. Our Reading in the Schools Day is September 17th, and our reading rallies are September 18th. The reading rallies happen at all 3 of our Rutherford County libraries simultaneously. They are free and open to the public. We have readers, storytellers, magicians, musicians, great door prizes, free, healthy food, always some kind of physical challenge, lots of, did I say door prizes? And the idea there is really just to get people out to the library to see what's available to them. So like I said, that's free and open to the public on the 18th of September. Now, on the 17th of December, Read to Succeed has volunteer readers in every classroom in Rutherford County. So that is our friends over at the Murfreesboro City Schools, private schools here in the county, as well as daycares this year we've added, and then in all the Rutherford County elementary, and even some of the middle schools. It's over 24,000 children that are read to, all on the same day. Lots of special programs going on in every single one of your schools. And for people who are interested in reading to students on that day, they can go onto our website, click on their favorite school, and we'll hook them up with a classroom. And you can even say, well, you know, don't give me those kindergartners, I'll read to the fourth graders, or let them know what your best choice is. So this is my opportunity also to thank you guys for everything that you do. It's your support from the school board is so important to us. The staff that is back here in this building, I cannot say enough good things about them. I'm not going to start naming them by names because I got nobody that wouldn't end up on the list. They're a great group to work with. Their attitude is always, yes, let's make that happen. And, you know, Read to Succeed is a nonprofit out here in the community. We're just doing our best to support what you and the libraries have been doing for a long time. And to have that attitude of, yes, let's do it, is wonderful. And it keeps the Read to Succeed staff, which is very, very small, out there feeling supported and feeling energized by the feedback that we get from your school system. We use lots of volunteers to make our programs happen. That's why we run on a very, very small budget. And we really couldn't do that without the depth and the width of the collaborations that we have here in Rutherford County. And of course, that includes from the business community, Chamber of Commerce, and lots of other friends. So many thanks to you. Some of you sit on our boards and councils. I really appreciate the time. And again, for you fellows with some extra volunteer time now, keep us in mind. Check out our website. It's readtosucceed.org. Any questions? I know I talk fast. I'm a Yankee.
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay, good. Glad to hear it.
Any questions?
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Number 9, old business.
Old business, select site for high school. Which we spent, I don't know, 3 separate meetings talking about numbers and zones for high school. I spent a considerable amount of time today trying to put some information together that I thought would be helpful. I know Mr. Donald Jernigan was a little uncomfortable, or at least wanted some answers with respect to where these kids. Hey, Shane, give me the lights back on, Amy, for just a minute. To, you know, how we got to 2,900 Laverne, how we got to X number at Smyrna, how we got to X number at Blackman. And I know Dr. Burns did as well. And I wanted to make sure that what we reflected was what we were going to have, because I don't want to mislead anybody with regards to numbers. And I put some information together.
I certainly will.
Thank you. I hate to ask you to do extra work on the last meeting.
I can hear it.
Thank you.
I want to show you some numbers, and I want you to kind of stay focused on page 1 if you would, please. But page 2, the numbers on page 2 will, Mr. Holliday, do you have a copy of this? I'll give you a copy. The numbers that are reflected on that first page coincide with the numbers that are reflected on the second page. And these are numbers that are of kids that are active in school as of today. So, and I think this is kind of confirms what Mr. Morgan has showed us all along. And it's amazing how accurate his numbers were, and I want to commend him for that. I think it further confirms that we need a school at Stewart's Creek. But let's go over these numbers for a second. Current numbers at Smyrna Laverne High School as of today, they had between them 1,042 ninth graders. They were in school today. Zone for Smyrna and Laverne, there are 3,600 6 through 8 graders. Laverne Middle has 952. Rock Spring Middle has 933. Smyrna Middle has 918. Stewart's Creek Middle has 526 of their enrollment zoned for Smyrna High School. Now, that's a total of 4,642 kids that are currently enrolled in the Smyrna and Laverne zone. All right, now, I didn't have time to break down if there were few more going to Laverne than Smyrna or not, but I suspect that there is. But if you divide that number by 2, that means in the year 2013, each of those schools, presuming that they had the same equal number of kids, would have 2,321 students. That doesn't factor in any growth. That's simply kids that are here and zoned for those schools. Okay. Now, in anticipation of 3% growth, by the year 2011, that'd be 2,391. That should have read up there, 2,321 per school based on current numbers now in 2010. In 2011, with 3% growth, you'd have 2,391 kids at each school, if they're proportionate. 2012 with 3% additional growth, and we've experienced that every year, sometimes more, sometimes just slightly less. 2012, there'd be 2,462 at each school. And in 2013, at 3% growth, there would be 2,536 kids at Smyrna and Laverne, 5,072 total enrollment between the two schools. Now, even if we don't have 3% growth, we know that we're going to have 2,321 when they get there, regardless if there's another family moves into that zone, period. Those are actual numbers on zones that we currently have set up. Both those schools were built in '87 for 800 kids. We've done 3 additional additions, 400 each time. There's absolutely no room left to add anything, and we've got parking lots sitting in the portable at Laverne right now. We don't have anywhere to put portables at, which is why we're so hamstrung. Now, you got a question, Mark?
No.
Okay. Now, let me tell you Blackman High School. Blackman High School's current 6th through 9th grade enrollment. Blackman has 600 ninth graders this year. They have, I didn't write this down, but they have far fewer than that in the 11th and 12th grade. If you recall, we zoned those guys out of that Casey Lane area over there. So Blackman's got 600 ninth graders. Blackman currently has 1,777 6th through 8th graders that are zoned for their high school. Now, Blackman Middle School has 988. They're all zoned for the high school. Stewart's Creek Middle has 352 that'll be going to Blackman High School. Rockvale Middle School has 312, and we estimate, and I'm sure it's pretty doggone close, 125 kids from the city, 6th graders that are attending the city that also will go to Blackman High School. That's a total of 2,377 students in 2013. I kind of need to correct myself a while ago, with no growth. Okay, now, if we have growth over the next 3 years at 3%, and I don't think there's anybody in this room doesn't think that Blackman High School will have 3% growth. They'll probably have more. In 2011, with 3% growth, they would have 2,448, 2012, 2,521, 2013, 2,597. Blackman probably can accommodate 2,300 better than any county we got. We've got the core bigger and we've added on. But in retrospect, what you've got, if we grow at 3%, that's an assumption. Now, it's not an assumption that we'll be at 23-21. It's a fact. But if we grow at 3%, that means we'll be, Smyrna Laverne capacity is 2,000, even though it's probably just a little less, but we'll use 2,000 as a number. That means we'll have 2,500 in each of those schools. That's 1,000 kids we don't have seats in the building for. And we'll have probably an additional 300 to 400 at Blackman that we don't have seats for. That is 1,400 kids. which equates to about 52 or 3 single portables to accommodate them at $45,000 a pop, which is about $2.4 million to accommodate that growth. Now, those are numbers. They're not anything that anybody could fabricate, sensationalize, or anything else. Those are actual numbers, and they're reflected on page 2 of that. Now, with respect to Riverdale, Riverdale's 2 largest classes are their junior and senior class, and their freshman and sophomore are the 2 smaller classes. Mr. Morgan, in his estimation, I think we had them at 2,181. And as I've advocated all along, if we build Stewart's Creek, obviously the Stewart's Creek kids of the middle school stay there. We can pull kids a short distance out of Laverne and out of Smyrna and put them at Stewart's Creek. The board 5 years ago, when this plan first came to fruition, had the wisdom to see we're going to need a school here. And it's panned out exactly as they planned. And it's going to be pretty easy to slide kids out of Blackman over there and move the Case and Lane kids, about 340, I believe there are, back into Blackman from Riverdale, and Riverdale should have about 1,800 kids. It's a logical fix from my perspective, and I hope you see it that way, but I don't know any better way to break it down than we've just broke it down there. Those are actual bodies, kids that are in the school system, and I don't think anybody doubts that we're going to grow a little bit. And I hope that helps Mr. Donald clarify where they're coming from.
Questions? Blair?
I'm trying to study also this, these numbers that Mr. Morgan gave to us for the, looks like what the 1st and 9th month, the last 5 years, is that correct? Yes. And trying to pay attention to the director of schools, plus try to look at the trends here. And I know you were looking at the middle schools, so I'm trying to compare what is happening now in the middle schools and what has happened here over the last 5 years in our high schools. And I don't know that I have enough time to try to make all these comparisons. I would like to have this earlier today, but it doesn't seem to be tracking with the numbers as much over the last 5 years in the high school as it possibly is in the middle school. So I'm having some trouble weighing that right now.
I think if we took trends and just put them over here for a second and focused on what's there right now. I mean, even if we leave out, let's say there's not an ounce of growth, you're going to have a need to accommodate almost 700 people at Laverne, students at Laverne and Smyrna with portables. If you don't have, I mean, unless you change the whole zone, and there's nowhere to zone them in this county. And you also have, without any growth and without any trending or anything, you're going to have, what did we say? You're going to have probably 100 over what Blackman can handle. And again, I go back to, we've never seen a year when Blackman didn't have substantial growth. Have we? Is anybody aware of that?
Mr. Clark, do you know what those numbers are?
I was just going to say that Mr. Morgan and I checked those numbers today. There's years where they're 5%, there's a couple years where there's 2%, but the average for that is 3% growth, and that's where we get our 3% number from that we're using to calculate that number.
But I don't necessarily care that we even consider growth. And just look at that, the reality of the numbers that I presented. Riverdale's going to probably be.
It looks like if they're junior and
They're
senior
not
are
gonna grow
bigger,
over the next
they'll
2 or 3
lose a little
years.
bit maybe. If we zone some out of there, middle school, possible they could lose 40, 50 students. Is that logical, that Riverdale could lose 40, 50 students in that time?
I think they could. It's possible that what we're seeing with this scenario with with this plan, this first plan, is that we could maintain or drop that number at Riverdale.
From what he was saying, that's what I gathered. Any other questions?
You're saying drop that Riverdale number to 1,800?
Yes, sir. Without
Pretty easy.
growth.
If there's no more questions, I'd like to have a recommendation.
I recommend that you build Stewart's Creek High School open in August 2013.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm kind of in a quandary. I've had calls today wanting my support for Stewart's Creek, and I've had calls today for my support for Rockvale. I've had calls saying...
That's a tough position to be in.
Sorry?
That's a tough position to be in. I've been...
Yes, sir. And I've had calls from people saying, you know, I cannot stand a 17.5-cent property tax increase. And I beg the board's indulgence and maybe let's take a little more time to really digest this and look at it. And you know, it's not every day that you get to make a $50 million decision. And I certainly want to be comfortable with my due diligence and make sure that the decision we make undoubtedly is that right decision. I found out today we have, I think, a little over 3,300 building lots in the county, and I don't know where those lots are. And, you know, with the economy the way it is, as stagnant as it is, you know, which area kicks in the quickest? I'm not certain about that right now. And I would move that we table this for a little while and still have some opportunity to look at all these numbers and digest them and make sure that without a doubt we make the right decision. So that would be my motion to table.
Well, let's see if we get a second, then you can respond to it, Mr. Gill. You have a second on table?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Gill, can you address that?
First of all, I've shown you the numbers. You know, there's no speculation with respect to where they're going to build next. I mean, I think everybody knows Blackman will probably build out, the Stewart's Creek area will build out, eventually Rockvale will. Mr. Blair, I've heard you shout from the mountaintop several times over the last few years that you were wanting to get rid of trailers, and it was a shame that we had kids stuck out in trailers. And I think you're the one that first coined that phrase.
Yes, sir.
Bless you. And I'm sitting here telling you that we may have to buy 130 portables to accommodate this growth, and we're talking about we need to wait, we need to delay, we need to do this. We are the only voice the kids in this county have. We are their hope, we are their chance. The very idea that we don't have the courage to go down there and face the county court like we did on these middle schools, if we'd have given up because it was going to be a 10-cent sales tax increase or property tax increase, we never would have got those schools. Those kids at Buchanan, those kids at Oakland would have not had that opportunity. Our sole purpose down here is to serve these kids. We are their voice. There's not any reason to put this off. It's a big job you got. It's a big job I got. People call me all the time. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do what's right, Blaine. I'm not going to worry about somebody from Rockvale calling me, one of my constituents, somebody at Stewart's Creek. You know the school needs to go there. It's an appropriate place. We've shown you the numbers. We minimize travel. We've given the county court a year to extension on this. We can't afford to spend $3 million, $2.5 million on portables. We need to do the right thing. And if they don't have the courage and the wisdom to step up there and help us build these schools, I mean, what do we want? A tent city down there at Laverne? We have no place to put portables. We're gonna put them in the middle of a football field? I've already told you, the parking lot's full of portables. Smyrna High, Mr. Rakes calls frequently, said, I don't know what I'm gonna do. We've got to get moving on this. There's not any reason to delay this. We've been working on it for 5 years, for crying out loud. Let's vote on it. Let's get down there and start selling the county court on why we gotta have this school and serve the kids like we're voted on and appointed to do.
You know, for me, it's not about do we need a high school. We need a high school. I mean, I agree with that. I think we all agree with that. I started out this process pretty well convinced that that high school needed to go to Rockville. And I'm moving now, in large part because of these numbers that you provided. Now, yeah, we've been talking about it for years. We haven't had the numbers for years. We've had the numbers for about a month. And we got even more new numbers tonight, which I appreciate. I'd like the chance to be comfortable when I make this vote. So for me, it's not that I'm afraid to say we need a new high school. It's I'd like to be completely comfortable with where that goes. I don't see the problem with delaying it for a month, and it's certainly not, for me, it's not about who's coming on, and certainly not about who's going off. It's about having a little bit more time to digest these numbers.
Dr. Burns, when we were talking about the campus school, not the campus school, the magnet school, you said we need to go down to the commission and we need to ask for it. It was our duty to go down there and ask for it.
And I'm saying that now. We need to.
But we need to wait so that, well, never mind. Doris, did you have something to say?
It's the responsibility of this board to make recommendations because we didn't have no funding authority. If it doesn't leave here, then it's dead in the water for as long as it stays off the table. Now, I don't know how long that could be, but the most probable thing, it will be a year before it would get back and get to the board, leave this board and be at the county commission office. So that puts you basically 4 years from now to the time the school opens. I think we ought to vote up on this, that we send it forward to the health and ed, let Mr. Gill go take his best lick, and because this school is needed, and it's our time to step up and advocate this.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gary, what kind of timetable are we really looking at on
I came up with the timetable to try to get this thing approved this month. And we have to make the health ed not this month, not this next month, but the following month. But we're also in a process of trying to put the numbers together, trying to get the financing together within the building program and the current funds we have for the design. That's correct, isn't it? So it's my feeling that it's going to take the commission until probably next June to fund it, although they would go ahead and maybe make the decision sometime between now and then and go ahead and commit to doing it, although the fund wouldn't have to be available for the construction until we started it. We could move ahead, we could get it bid. That would give them plenty of time. That would give us some time. You know, it always takes us about 6 months on a big project when it goes through. So we'd have to start the construction probably next June to have it ready by 2013. So the next round, as soon as they get settled down there and get their subcommittees chosen, The next available meeting for them, I believe, is on 9/28, and then it would have to go the 10th, 7th to hit the next finance and budget. And then we would go on 10/14 to the commission with it. But, so we'd like to kind of go ahead and get the design group going, make sure that we have the fund. We had planned on using the footprint and the building of Siegel as a prototype and tweak that up. But we have several different peer group discussions, that's including the list that we have, all the coordinators for high school, a couple of the board members to be involved with those and all those things. So we would like to get things kind of going so that we would have plenty of information for, to try to push it as hard as we could when we get there. So that would give us a month or so to start in that if we can go ahead and get this thing passed. Now, I don't want to overspeak, but it'll be 6 years for me, October 23rd, here at the Board of Education. When I came in, y'all asked me to put a building program together. And we did, and we put almost $500 million worth of buildings together that we needed. We have successfully predicted what was going to happen. We have, not by accident, pretty much built schools where they need to go. We have pretty much predicted what the growth is going to be. And we've crunched the numbers on this. We think that it would be a mistake to build a high school in Rockville, and we have privy to these numbers every day. We watch them. For the simple fact that if you build the school in Rockville, you are going, and you've got that project out there at Eagleville. It's also that the county commission has committed to, because it's never been voted on. We feel like that if you build the school at Rockville, that's going to kill the chance of getting the Eagleville project, because we don't believe that they will support both of those on that end of the county. And you know what kind of nightmare it's going to be to try to continue the high school out there in Eagleville the way it is without the addition. So we feel that the numbers show that we need to build it on the north end of the county to give those people up there relief. We can take the Blackman zone down to 840. We can move those kids on the side of Case and Ling into Blackman, and that will give everyone relief that needs it, because Oakland's in good shape. If you build it down at Rockville, you kind of get into the situation of not really filling it up and trying to get people from the far north end of the county moved down to the south end. So I know I've overstated your question, but with all the work that we put in, and we feel like that we've been very accurate all this time. We feel like that this is the accurate thing to do, and we don't believe, or we do believe, that if you build a high school in Rockville a year after you get it built, we're still going to need another $50 million high school on the north end of the county. And with all the facts that we've looked at, we just think that it's going to be a huge mistake with everybody, including the citizens and everyone else in the county, to build a school on this end. because we're only gonna probably get one. And that will almost finish up our 5-year building plan that we've been so accurate on all of this time.
Well, I think you're right about getting one and let me say something about the location. I have thought about the location quite a bit, as well as everyone else. But I recall very well when Laverne and Smyrna, they were built. And the zone, and Mr. Wise remembers it very well too, I'm sure, because the Laverne zone extended all the way to Murfreesboro, Franklin Road. Those kids were transported a long way. That was a nightmare situation, and I don't want to see that repeated. We don't have many places to go with that. And one school is all we're going to get now, if we get that. And we have to have everything, and that's the reason, and I appreciate these numbers and the work for these numbers, because you can't deal with some things in the abstract. You've got to deal with it in the reality of the situation. And I wanted to deal with the numbers and people there, and the numbers are there. I feel comfortable with that. In a 3% growth rate, that's not guaranteed. Could be 1, but if the economy turns around, it could be 6 too. So we have to be careful with those types of things. My question on the timetable is, with the motion here, is that how much lead time do we have? And when you brought up the commission with their committees, this has to be voted on fairly quickly. So if it's tabled tonight, then it still has to be voted on fairly quickly. So that's, and I appreciate you pointing that out. Thank you.
I'd like to make one more point also, and we have a great school board, and we're looking forward to a continued great school board with our new members. But Mr. Doris Jernigan and Mr. Rick Wide have been here with this entire plan, almost $500 million worth of schools. And I really feel that it would be doing a disservice to them to not let them vote on this. They helped us put the plan together. They've been with us through this entire plan. And I feel that I would like, this is personal now, I'm just, that I would like to see them have this entire plan under their belt before they leave. And that's a personal feeling of mine.
And I think it's legitimate personal feeling too. I think.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clardy. Do you want to say something, Mr. Gill? No. Now, we're going to vote first on whether we delay it or not. Is that correct? Okay. Call the roll.
This is to table the motion for
Yes.
further study. Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
No.
Mr. Kelly?
No.
Mr. Donald Jernigan?
Yes.
Dr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Doris Jernigan?
No.
Mr. Wise?
No.
4 noes, 3 yeses, motion carries.
In other words, we don't table.
Table.
We do not table it. Thank you. Okay. All right, now we need to vote on the original motion, unless there's some other discussion on that. Okay, let's vote on the original motion. Call the roll.
Dr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Donald Jernigan?
No.
Mr. Doris Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Still would like to have some time to continue to study these figures. A decision on my part tonight would be inappropriate. I'll abstain.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chairman, may I change my vote?
Certainly.
I'll change it to yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
in order to go to the commission, they want to see a unanimous body. So I will change my vote also to join the majority of the board.
Okay.
I'd extend my personal thanks to my fellow board members for their vote change. This is a critical vote. It is important that it go as a unanimous vote to our funding body. And thank you for doing this.
Mr. Gill,
Sir,
I realize that we do not have taxing ability,
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, Mr. Jernigan. You realize what?
that we do not have taxing ability. And one of the most difficult things that I've sat here and thought about has been, if we had taxing ability, how would we sell this, or how would I sell it to the community? And I can tell you that my friends that are in the same situation I am out there, I'd have a very difficult time selling it. Matter of fact, I'm going to have a very difficult time facing some of them with just changing my vote a few minutes ago. And this is not something that we can take lightly because, and I'm going, Mr. Clardy got on some things, and I'm going to get on some things here. We have just gone through a reappraisal in this county that has really put a tax burden on a lot of people without the change of the tax rate. So we're faced with a tremendous uphill battle. Where the commission votes it either way, this school board is going to be blamed for the tax increase. And this is something that is going to affect us down the road on a lot of other issues. I have no doubt in my mind that to be true. And I did not take this vote lightly. I agree that Stewart's Creek is an ideal location. But is this the time that we can get it through? I don't know. And that's where
I understand. And to address that, you're right, we have been unfairly blamed for years for being the perpetrator of increasing the tax rate. But we have no control, unfortunately, over, building permits being issued in the county, planning that takes place. And my preference would be to have been to wait a year or two, but I personally, I don't take it lightly either. I mean, I'm sure my name's been used in vain many times for being the perpetrator of causing tax increases. But, I mean, I got concerned with, and I think you are too, and I think everybody on the board is, with a school like Laverne having 2,600 kids in a building built for 2,000, with having 30 portables stuck outside. Same for Smyrna High School. Safety issues, trying to manage that building. How are we going to make it work? Because kids come, we're not funded adequately at the state level for school construction. I think everybody in this board and in this community has anybody going to schools wants to get out of the portable business. We already have 144 portables in place. I mean, do we want to? I just, in fairness to the kids, want to at least fight for it, ask for it, and hopefully have it funded. And I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from on that. And I certainly respect and sympathize what you're saying too. But I'd like to give it the good old all-American try and see if we can get it. And if people are ill at me, I'd hope they look at the bright side, which we're trying to help. And I'm personally trying to help kids, and I think the board is too.
You must remember, we really kept the tax rate from going up this year because we saved enough money to open those 2 new schools. People forget that real quick. They forget that. I understand they forget that real quick, but we did. And I'm proud of that fact that we did that. And that was a collective thing that the board did, and I appreciate the board for those things. So, anyway, any other discussion on that issue? Number 10, Mr. Gill.
Special education. A, implementation of pilot community-based transition class. Under IDEA, students with disabilities are eligible for educational services to the age of 22 years. In an effort to provide students with a more age-appropriate setting, the pilot program based on Middle Tennessee State University campus will provide opportunities for transition into independent living. Through a community-based transition class, 18 to 22-year-old students with cognitive and developmental disabilities will gain greater levels of independence, employment, and self-determination skills. The pilot program will teach young adults the skills they need to enter the workforce. Supports and adaptations will be provided as needed by the Rutherford County staff. The program will provide a variety of job training experience as well as training in other areas to include the following. Using public transportation, accessing public agencies, shopping, banking, and participating in recreational activities. Transition training will also include apartment living with emphasis on meal planning and preparation, budgeting, and personal safety. Pilot program will initially accept up to 10 students. Enrollment criteria will include approaching exit from the high school with a special education diploma or certificate of attendance within a 2-year period, recommendations from the IEP team, and the ability to function in a community with minimal assistance. The program will require 1 part-time teaching position and 1 time full job education assistant. Position will be funded by ARROW, IDEA Part B special ed funds. Recommend that we approve the implementation of a pilot community-based transition class located at MTSU that would allow a group of 18 to 22-year-olds to participate and receive instruction in the community with funding for positions provided by ARROW, IDEA Part B education, special education funds.
You've heard the recommendation. Have a motion. So moved. Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Question about stimulus money.
Sure.
How long would you anticipate this might fund this program?
I think there's 1 year left, isn't there? Yes. 1, and then we have to pick.
It takes 2 or 3 years to really get the program on its feet. I'm hoping that they would.
This would be our pilot year.
Be our pilot year.
Any more discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
B, contractual agreement with the Wesley Foundation in Murfreesboro. contract for the lease and rental agreement between Rutherford County Schools and Wesley Foundations for the rental of a duplex apartment adjacent to Wesley Foundation at MTSU. Agreement includes the use of space at the Wesley Foundation Student Center at no additional charge. The Wesley Foundation Student Center will be the central location from which the transition program will be based. Monthly rental cost of the apartment is $700 per month from August 2010 through May 2011. Recommend that you approve the lease and rental agreement of the duplex apartment adjacent to Wesley Foundation from August 2010 through May of 2011 at $700 per month. This rental, along with free use of Wesley Foundation, will provide a location at MTSU, pilot our first community-based transition class for 18 to 22-year-olds with cognitive and developmental disabilities. Total cost not to exceed $7,000 for the 10-month period, plus a $500 deposit will be paid from ERA IDEA Part B Special Ed funds.
Heard the recommendation, have a motion.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Facilities.
Rock Springs Elementary School Pavilion and Observation Deck, Principal Stephen Lewis requests permission to construct a 20 by 25 pavilion and 16 by 16 observation deck at Rock Springs Elementary School. Pavilion will be built in the grass just to the east of the school building at the corner of the two parking lots, and the observation deck will be built just outside the fence of the retention pond with appropriate guardrails for student safety and to prevent student access to the pond. These projects will be constructed of pressure-treated lumber, and the pavilion will have a metal roof. Construction of these projects will be inspected by the Rutherford County Engineering Construction Department for compliance to project specifications. Projects will be funded by Home Depot at no cost to the board. Recommend that we approve construction of a 20 by 20 pavilion and a 16 by 16 observation deck at Rock Springs Elementary funded by Home Depot at no cost to the board.
Heard the recommendation. Motion, have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
12, financial matters. School activity funds, receivables, and payables. The board approves the various accounts receivable and payable in the school activity funds each year. These are routine business transactions that were complete as of June 30th, 2010. They're being closed out during July and August. We recommend that you approve $811.77. The school activity funds account receivable and $12,275.17. School activity fund account payable as presented.
Heard the recommendation, have a motion.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
B, contract to audit school activity funds. Last year, the contract to audit school activity funds and centralized cafeteria fund was awarded to Randall Matlock and Associates, PC. Excuse me. The cost for the first extension will be approximately $55,000. Contract allows 3 one-year extensions. Recommend that you approve the 2010-2011 audit contract with Randall Matlock and Associates, PC, for the school activity funds and centralized cafeteria funds for approximately $55,000.
Heard the recommendation, have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Wise.
Yes, sir.
We discussed all these last night at the work session, and I don't think any of the board members take any of this lightly. General purpose school budget amendments. Transfer from fund balance to federal projects. On October the 15th, 2009, the Rutherford County School Board, County Commission approved a $1 million transfer resolution in order to loan up to $1 million from the GPS fund balance to the school system's federal projects fund in order to avoid temporary cash deficits in the federal projects fund. We only had to use $500,000 last year, but the race to the top and the second year of ERA IDEA will need to go up to $1 million approved total. This $1 million transfer shall remain in the federal project fund as a designated fund balance from the GPS fund and may be repaid at any time as noted in the resolution passed by the Board of Education and the County Commission. This amendment decreases the general purpose school fund balance by $500,000 and increases transfers to other funds by $500,000. Recommend that you amend $500,000 from the general purpose school fund balance into budget $500,000 and transfers to other funds.
Heard the recommendation, have a motion.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
2, BEP ERA. This amendment moves $6,725,500 from account 46511 Basic Education Program to account 46512 BEP ERA. State is using part of its ERA funds to fund a part of the BEP and other programs that flow through the general purpose school budget. Recommend that you amend $6,725,500 from account 46511 Basic Education Program to account 46512 BEP ERA as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is just an accounting procedure, it has no effect other than that. It's just a...
Yes, sir.
Any more discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 13.
13, 2010-2011 educational agreement with Rutherford Education Association. Board approval is requested to accept the 2010-2011 educational agreement as ratified by the REA. Recommend that you approve the 2010-2011 education agreement.
Heard the recommendation.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
It's been pretty quiet this year.
It has.
I really think somebody did a good job on maybe both sides, at least to come to agreement without...
Raise your hand, Ms. Barnes.
Can't you take a bow?
Yeah. If no more discussion, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we'll take up the issue of whether we have an earlier board meeting or not in September. I guess we just vote on it. All in favor of having an earlier board meeting in September, let it be known by saying. We had a motion. Didn't he make the motion?
We need a motion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead and make the motion.
Motion to schedule an earlier board meeting. Purpose is to, of course, Chairman Wise is leaving and give us our new leadership, and also our new board members will have been sworn in, and we'll give them an opportunity to discuss some of the issues that maybe they've been all through their campaigns that they heard from their constituents. So,
Okay, you made the motion. I have a second.
I think he needs to set a date in this motion, because anything in August is,
I think he's talking about first of
I know he's talking about September.
in that first week, depending on the director of schools' schedule and
Do you have any dates there, Joyce?
Ms. Michaels.
Probably September the 7th.
That's fine with me, Mr.
Board
Chairman.
members are being sworn in on the 3rd.
Terry, you have a question?
I just got, I can understand moving the meeting up, but we've already got one scheduled September.
The
Correct.
21st and 22nd.
Well, we really need a second on the motion before we discuss it, and then I'll let you do it, Terry.
I'll second it for that purpose.
Okay, go ahead, Terry.
I guess my question is, why do we need two meetings? I don't have a problem moving September the 21st up. Earlier, I don't have a problem with that, but I just think it's a waste of, if we don't have anything to do, it's a waste of money and a waste of time.
I was going to ask the same thing, if it's talking about an additional meeting or just moving one up to get a little head start.
Which way would you want, Mr. Blair? Do you want to just move the other one up to the 7th
Sure,
instead of the 23rd?
sure. If that's possible, just move it forward. Yes, sir.
You gonna do a work session too, or just a board meeting?
Well, whatever they choose.
Well,
Yeah.
why don't we just do that, just move it forward to the first of the month, if that's convenient.
It would be on the 7th and the 8th.
What days? is that on?
That's on Tuesday and Wednesday.
That's fine with me, Mr. Chairman.
Is that in your motion? Is that all right with your second, Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? No.
Now, we're only having one meeting, right?
Work
One
session and a
official meeting, and, well, my question is, if it was the third week and it was there for a reason, why was the third week, is that when?
Because there were
Most of
conferences on the week of the 13th. There's a conflict.
Okay, so that, the TSBA meeting is in there too, isn't it?
Correct, it's on the 23rd. That's why we had the meetings on the 21st and 22nd, because the TSBA meeting's on the 23rd. But now, as I understand it, we're not meeting on the 21st and 22nd. We're meeting on 7th and 8th.
That's what the motion is.
Yes, if you pass this motion.
That's
There's
Tuesday,
a conflict on the 9th.
that's Tuesday and Wednesday,
It's Tuesday and Wednesday, correct?
Labor Day's Monday.
Labor Day's Monday.
When do we normally start having 2 meetings a month, though? Isn't that usually in September? I mean, I don't care about this September, I'm just trying to think what our regular schedule is.
I think in the past, it's been one meeting in
Maybe it's been October.
October we started too, I think. I think that's what it's been, characteristically. Any more discussion?
Now, let me clarify, please.
Yes, ma'am.
We're canceling 21 and 22 of September,
Correct.
and we're scheduling the 7th and the 8th of September
Correct.
for our board meetings. Is that going to suit you?
That'll be fine.
Any other discussion?
I will be abstaining because I won't be here.
I will too. I will too.
You're under no obligation to be here, right?
I'll abstain too. Any other discussion? All in favor of that, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You have an earlier meeting. General discussion, board members.
Just to thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, 40 years of driving a bus, teaching, administration, and board and vice chair and board member, and Doris, 2 terms, an executive in a major corporation in this community, and God bless you for your service, and you also, Chairman Wise, and for your armed forces also. Y'all will be missed.
I just like to reiterate what Wayne says. I'd like to thank both of you for your service, and just appreciate the good job you did, and wish you both the best in the future.
Thank you.
I'll pile on here. I can't believe it's been 6 years that we've been serving together. So we've had our disagreements, but I've always been confident for both of you all, really for all of us, that you've done what you've done with the best interest of children at heart. So I appreciate that. Appreciate your service.
Thank you, Mark.
It's off.
Wait a minute, you got Mr. Donald.
That's what I was worried about.
I can't let it go. Well, of course, 6 years, it's, there's a song, "My Ain't It Funny How Time Slips Away," and that's certainly true. And it has slipped away on us. But Rick and Mr. Doris, I look back and think, man, the awesome job that both have done, and I've known Rick for many, many years, and it's going to be.
I think you knew me when I drove that bus, probably.
Yeah, it's going to be different without Rick around, and I'm going to certainly miss him from that standpoint. And I've sat next to Mr. Doris here for 6 years, and I must say that yes, it seemed like that we would look at things differently, but we never left here without, in my point of view, never left with any doubt in my mind of the utmost respect and sincere effort that was being made. And I really appreciate that fact of the service that both of you have done. And I hope, yes, we're blamed for a lot of bad, but there's been a lot of good come from this board too. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Donald. I appreciate it. Anything, Mr.
Well,
Kevin?
one good thing, obviously, I echo whatever everybody else has said, but it's good it's getting out here in September. I've got a little extra hay. And you won't have any excuses.
Don't call me, I'll call you.
No, if Grant harvests as much hay he said he does, he must be supplying the co-op all across the southeast. I do have one parting shot. I'd like to say, Rick, I miss you too, but you live 1.5 miles from me, and I'm afraid I'm gonna see you on a pretty regular basis.
Probably will. That may be a good thing, or maybe a bad thing.
Yeah.
All minds at ease, I know mine's at ease. Mine's at ease, Explain that to me. Tell me how to figure that one. Being adjourned.